Ladies and gentlemen, how greed slowly killed Clash Royale. This is going to be an interesting one for me to watch, seeing that I have been around the game since literally the very, very beginning. I played this game when it was an alpha. I was the first big creator for the game. A lot of people didn't switch over to Clash Royale from Clash of Clans because they were afraid. I went head first into Clash Royale. And was the face of the game for a while. And I feel like this is going to bring back a lot of interesting topics and all that kind of stuff. So for those of you who have been around for a while, stick through this. Comment down below. Let me know how y'all feel about this, because all of us are seeing it right now. But this video is by Arcto on YouTube. If you want to check out any of his other stuff, really, really good, well thought out videos. This one's 18 minutes, but I imagine we'll probably sit and chat for like 30 minutes or so. So let's go ahead and jump into it, y'all. Thank you for the support. Thank you for using code Molt. Let's get it.
Tens of millions of dollars in lost revenue. YouTube views down nearly 50%.
Bro, first of all, he jumped straight in. Tens of millions of dollars in revenue lost already, just because of what they thought was a good idea with the level 16, with heroes or whatever the heck they're called. I always think here, I mix them up in my head. Heroes and 50% drop in YouTube views. Yes, that is true for everybody, man. All the content creators, myself included, are like, what the heck is going on, man?
And one of the biggest Clash Royale streamers walking away.
Probably not going to be streaming too much Clash until they fix the game, bro.
Here's the thing that's crazy about the Jinxie situation. Like, so he used to play. He used to be super competitive. He's talked about that before. Then he left and went and started playing Rainbow Six. Blew up on that. I feel like he blew up because of his character, not because of the game he was playing, obviously. Came back, and Supercell had a chance. They had an opportunity to use the initial flood of people coming in for this to gain input from a bunch of returning players. I would say most of the people that he brought back to the game had probably played before. They had an opportunity to have a flood of information from people who had left the game. People who had left the game, they could have gotten a flood of information from them on how to make the game better and how to keep them from leaving again. But instead, as we all know, like the title of this, greed slowly killed it. And a lot of those people have now then left with him. Huge missed opportunity. Okay, I'm going to stop interrupting.
That level of damage leaves a trail. And if you follow it, you don't just find one mistake, you find a pattern. A pattern where player experience slowly stopped being the priority. To understand how that pattern formed, you have to look at what Clash Royale used to be. Before heroes, before evolutions, and even before champions, the game was far simpler, and it was built around community feedback. Balance change.
Like, here's the thing. Here's something that I want to point out. Myself and Nick at Night were the most popular Clash Royale YouTubers once we started doing our collabs. None of it was competitive. None of it was professional. None of it was, like, our best videos were us goofing off in a game and hanging out with you guys, and that made everybody laugh. The game turned and took a direction towards uber competition, which is fine in its own right, in its own lane, but I very specifically remember them stopping the focus on the casual fun that everybody was having and going head first, 95% of all production, into let's make this competitive, esports, CRL, all that kind of stuff. And that stuff was good, but it should have never been a priority. It should have been a split. Who were the most competitive people? There's competitive and then there's casual people. Nick and I, who were getting the most views, like pros, I can't even think of, like Ash would have people on Ash would have pros on, and like when pros would get on Ash's channel, it was like a big deal for them. It was like a big shout out for them to do that kind of stuff. But that type of content wasn't as big. It started getting big as they started pushing and promoting that, but like nothing ever achieved the views that Nick and I used to get with like double rocket tower things and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. This is me rambling again. We're only 45 minutes into the video.
Updates were often direct
45
responses
seconds.
to how players felt. Back then, feedback wasn't left unanswered. For example, battles used to cost gold. Every single match chipped away at your gold, and
I remember that.
players hated it. It punished experimentation and made losing feel worse than it needed to be. So
Yeah.
Clash Royale removed it entirely. The game instantly felt more accessible because you could actually play without worrying about your gold. Progression had similar problems. Level 6 legendaries were absurdly difficult to obtain, so difficult that they felt more like status symbols than playable cards. The community pushed back and Supercell listened. Level 6 legendaries were removed, locking them at level 5 and bringing them back to the realm of something you could somewhat realistically work toward instead of endlessly chase. And when players said epics were bottlenecking progression, the response wasn't silence. It was Epic Sunday, a small change.
That's huge. Like, literally, the fact that he just said the response wasn't silence. And a lot of times, like, here's the thing with so many categories in life. There's reactiveness and there's preemptiveness. So I think that's the word. So, like, doing something before, expecting something to happen, or reacting to it. And it seems like the team has become more reactionary, but even in a sense, not reacting after something already happens. Like, they need to be able to look at this and say, how is this going to be perceived? Is this something that we should do? We should probably poll the community, even if it leaks that we're thinking about coming out the new level. Like, you look at Clash of Clans, new levels for Clash of Clans actually comes with stuff. They're going to talk about this here too, but they used to listen and act quickly. And maybe things were smaller then, or they definitely were smaller then. There were less community input and all that kind of stuff, but
Sure, but one that directly targeted a real frustration, giving players a reliable, predictable way to grow their collections instead of relying purely on luck. The same philosophy applied to legendaries. When players wanted a clearer path to actually unlocking them, legendary chests were introduced. Not perfect, but it was something. You knew what you were getting. And for the first time, legendary cards felt attainable.
yeah.
Then came one of the biggest additions the game had ever seen. 2v2. Players wanted a way to play with their friends that wasn't locked behind.
Dude, Arcto's videos are so good. Like, go and watch. He's done so many other videos that are just incredible. So if you're watching this, remember that Arcto. After we watch this one, go spend some time watching some of his other things.
What they got instead was a casual social mode that removed pressure entirely, and it ended up becoming one of Clash Royale's most loved features of all time.
Throwback, dude.
Even progression control was handed back to the players. When people got tired of pulling legendaries they didn't want, trade tokens were added. A clever way to give people the legendaries they want without increasing drop rates or introducing card requests. Suddenly, progression wasn't just about luck anymore, it was about choice. If you invested time, you could actually move your deck forward. But even with simpler things like balance changes, the community had a lot of impact. Royal Giant is the perfect example. He was infamous for his
We all know how much I hated the Royal Giant back then.
massive range, creating frustrating, non-interactive gameplay. And instead of ignoring complaints or slapping on small stat tweaks, Supercell reworked him into a card that was healthier for the game. Still strong, but far less obnoxious to face.
Yeah.
None of these changes
Oppressive.
were accidental. They happened because players spoke up, and the game responded. So when did this stop? When did player-first design quietly turn into revenue-first design? I don't blame Supercell for wanting money. Clash Royale is a business, and it always has been. You can't blame a business for wanting to make money.
And, like, here's the thing. Typically, the more money that they make, it goes into production and future games and all that kind of stuff. It's necessary.
But there needs to be a balance.
Right.
One where the game makes profit, but the player base can still enjoy the game. The issue isn't that they monetize the game. It's how that monetization slowly changed the priorities behind the updates.
Right.
And there hasn't been a single update you can point to and say, this is when everything went wrong.
That's from the Real
shift
Housewives.
was gradual, subtle, almost reasonable at first. But a strong place to start is the summer of 2019, with the introduction of Pass Royale. On paper, Pass Royale looked harmless, even generous, a low-cost monthly pass filled with rewards, cosmetics, and quality-of-life perks. Compared to aggressive shop offers or pure pay-to-win systems, it felt fair, almost player-friendly, and
and the price was way cheaper back then. It's not like creating Pass Royale takes more stuff now, so like supply and demand. Like, no, it's just it's something on the internet. Yeah.
Early on, it was. But Pass Royale
The freak
marked
was that?
a philosophical shift. Before this, monetization mostly
Hey, that's my
lived
thumbnail. That's one of my thumbnails.
around the game. Chests, shop offers, optional shortcuts. With Pass Royale, monetization moved into the core progression loop itself. Progress wasn't just about how well or how often you played anymore. It was about whether you were on the paid track or the free one.
Right.
While it offered a cheaper
Hey, comment down below when you first started playing Clash Royale. When did you pick it up? Which one of these years?
alternative for maxing cards and unlocking new cards,
Who the heck was that?
it inevitably created a significant divide between players who spent money and those who didn't. This disparity became especially noticeable in early 2021 when the Book of Books was added to the pass.
Right.
At the time, this was before champions were introduced, so the Book of Books essentially provided access to around 20 legendaries each month.
Crazy, dude.
A huge boost for anyone playing. Free-to-play players, on the other hand, were left without these powerful cards and missed out on a host of extra perks, including chest queuing, continuing challenges, and other rewards that made progression much easier.
It's just things that didn't seem necessary to put behind a paywall a lot of times. Like, I understand the Book of Books, but so many other, like, chest queuing, like, what do you... Kick them while they're down,
The
man.
divide only widened in October of 2021 when Clash Royale saw a major shift in monetization. For the first time in nearly 6 years, a new level was added, with level 14 bringing higher card levels and new challenges. Now, it's important to understand that these level increases didn't actually add any new content.
That is what is important to recognize, which is why he just said it's important to notice. If level 16 had come with something actually new, not just a level. Like we look at Clash of Clans, new things come out whenever they come out with new town halls. And a lot of times towers will get new abilities or things like that you can upgrade things in a different manner. It feels a lot better with Clash of Clans. It doesn't just feel like, okay, people aren't spending money anymore, so let's make them just upgrade stuff for the sake of upgrading. Like, all of these things would have been responded to differently if those levels came with new content, not just better health
A level
and
14
damage.
card plays exactly the same as a level 13 card. The interactions, the mechanics, the strategies, everything stays the same. The only difference is that a higher level card hits harder and survives longer. So really what level 14 did was create a new kind of imbalance, not a new kind of gameplay. Suddenly, players with level 14 cards had an edge over those still at level 13, and every interaction became less about skill and more about who had spent more to reach that level.
Right.
It wasn't adding content, it was adding advantage. And that made the gap between paying and free-to-play players even more obvious. Then there
Yo, like, here's the thing that I think about, man. We think about the money that they used to make on the game, and Pass Royale wasn't even a thing then. They used to make so much money, and now the biggest thing that they make money on now, Pass Royale, wasn't even in existence then. Which is like wild. People wanted to spend money on the game at the beginning because they were leveling up. It was fun. You actually got stuff for it. Blah, blah, blah. Like he said earlier, progression seemed like more intentional and they responded to things. And I can only imagine how big the fall off would be if the Pass Royale was like a thing done correctly at the beginning. How much more they would have made, and now looking at it like, holy cow.
There was the infamous Slash Royale incident, and this one really rubbed players the wrong way.
This one was crazy,
During
man.
the event, players were heavily encouraged to upgrade their cards with huge discounts and extra rewards. On the surface, it seemed like a great deal, but shortly after, level 14 was announced. With that update, the gold and card requirements for maxing cards was reduced across the board. What that meant is that anyone who had upgraded their cards during Slash Royale suddenly lost potential value. The epics and legendaries they had spent gold and magic items on could have been upgraded more efficiently if they had waited. Essentially, the event tricked players into spending resources too early, leaving them feeling frustrated and misled. It wasn't just about lost gold, it was about the sense that the game had nudged you.
I wanted to read this to you guys just so that you can see it. Yes, we messed up with the planning, and yes, looking back at it now, it would have been better for us to announce Slash and level 14 simultaneously. See, this is that reactionary thing instead of preemptive I was talking about. You cannot understand how immensely disappointed I am in myself for not even thinking about this. For that, I, for one, am sorry. And it's like, yeah, people make mistakes, but with something like this, man, you got to have... You remember when you were in school and you had people proofread stuff and like read over things, like edit it, like all that kind of jazz? Like, I don't understand how something like that was missed.
Into making the wrong choice, creating a lot of tension between paying and
then you have the response like this, but so many people had already left, or they don't read this and so they don't understand what's going on. And so like the avenues for communication need to be better as well.
Free players, and highlighting just how sharp the divide had become. On top of that, champions arrived, cards that were even harder to unlock than legendaries, and also very powerful. Suddenly, the book of books from earlier in the year became even more valuable.
I wish he was sharing how much the Pass Royale was at each of these, because I feel like it used to be like $4.99 or something, didn't it?
Making the gap between paying and non-paying players feel wider than ever. What had started as a convenience for players seeking faster progression had transformed into a system that amplified the difference in power and access between free and paying players, fundamentally changing how the game felt for each group.
Whoa, that picture's crazy.
Card releases had also started to feel stale. New cards were coming out less frequently, and when they did, it was usually just one at a time. So there wasn't really much new content to get excited about.
I remember one, there used to be new cards like every 2 weeks or something. It was crazy. And one of the updates was Goblin Gang, Goblins, Dark Goblin, and Executioner. I have a thumbnail on my channel with all 4 of those. And they used to pump out just good stuff. And now it's just like evolutions, which evolutions are cool, whatever. But so much of that stuff just feels like uncreative to me. It feels almost lazy, to where it's like, okay, what's something that we've already come up with? Okay, how can we tweak that a little bit? And it's sometimes it feels like they can't come up with new ideas anymore, when like as a community, we've come up with so many cool things that could be implemented into the game, but they just aren't. I don't know if they're afraid of having too many cards, but I feel like Clash Royale could have 300 cards by now. And like, yeah, that might be a little bit hard for new people coming in, but if they're spread out enough, I don't know. I miss the days of getting new cards, man.
There wasn't anything to compensate for all the frustrating updates, like level 14 or Slash Royale. And for many players, the game started to feel slower, less rewarding, and more about keeping up with power than discovering anything genuinely new.
Right.
Now let's talk about what some players are called.
Which is why I started to get so tilted playing this game, as you guys know. Like, I loved it, and I was living out my frustration with the game before you guys. As someone who always wanted to play off meta, always wanted to do this kind of stuff, it was like, what are they doing, man? It felt so forced.
Calling the update for losers. This update, which rolled out on March 27th, might be one of the worst updates in Clash Royale history. And it all started with the Gold Pass. One of the biggest changes was the removal of the Book of Books.
Yeah. It was $5.99.
This magic item had been a cornerstone for upgrading champions efficiently.
Oh, that's another one of my thumbnails.
Upgrading now feels much harder. At the same time, the value of the Gold Pass itself decreased, even as the price went up by $1.
Crazy.
To make matters
it was
worse,
$4.99.
the new Diamond Pass, priced at $12, offers worse value than the previous $5
Like, how do you not see that? What are you doing?
pass. Its only real exclusive reward is an animated banner, which looks nice, but does nothing for progression. Hardly justification for such a steep price increase.
Literally
Another
unreal.
unpopular change was the removal of chests from 2v2 matches. For many players, this was a fun way to casually earn rewards with friends.
Oof.
Losing it makes you wonder about the direction the game is heading. The update itself also felt really underwhelming. At this time, it had been more than 4 months since a proper update, and all we got were some small changes to Clash Royale and events. No new card, no significant quality of life updates, and no fresh game modes. In fact, during this time, we hadn't seen a new card in nearly 6 months. And the community made it very clear. The YouTube video for this update has 170,000 dislikes and only 70,000 likes. And the comments were even more brutal, with people saying things like, "Been playing since launch. This update marks the last time I'll be active. This is horrible. Thanks Supercell for the hours of entertainment over the years, and thanks to all the great people I've met or battled."
Wow,
Maybe you should
brutal.
have an update where you take suggestions for the player base. And what came only a few months later only made things worse. And then came level 15 and evolutions. And honestly, this was one of the most controversial moments in Clash Royale history. Level 15 itself was already frustrating. The gap between level 14 and 15 came in less than 2 years, and the devs promoted it as no gold required. But in reality, unlocking level 15 cards required 50,000 elite wildcards, which were a nightmare to obtain. It wasn't just about getting to level 15, it was about how it was promoted, with promises of no gold, while still making players grind or spend heavily to actually reach it. And if that wasn't enough, evolutions dropped at the same time. Evolutions are now an intricate, balanced part of the game.
Yeah.
Well, not always balanced, but compared to June of 2023, they definitely are now. Because at launch, they were insanely overpowered. You couldn't realistically get more than one evolution without paying because wild shards were brand new. You couldn't stockpile them, and the only available offer to buy them directly was a $100 bundle. And yet, these evolutions were absolutely essential for competing at higher levels. If you didn't have them, you were at a serious disadvantage. And before you say, Arcto, they weren't that bad, were they? Let's quickly break down the 4 original evolutions and how they impacted the game. Skeletons. The evolved skeletons introduced a completely new mechanic. Every hit spawned an extra skeleton, and on paper, this created a snowballing chain of chaos that looked terrifying. But at launch, they weren't broken. The evolution required 3 cycles to activate, and only 6 could be on the field at once. That meant in most matches, you'd only evolve them once or twice, and they still died to a simple log or zap. Their usage rate on ladder was just 1.8%. Over the next year, buffs made them much stronger, faster attack speed, lower activation cycles, higher max count, and by 2024, they became one of the most played evolutions in the game, showing just how much potential they had once properly tuned. Firecracker.
My journey into trading, like that learning curve, has exponentially just gotten a lot shorter.
The Evolved Firecracker, released alongside Skeletons, was a complete
Ridiculous.
nightmare on launch. Every spark
For
she
real.
shot stacked damage separately, meaning multiple projectiles could hit your Princess Tower individually. And she couldn't even die to arrows, a 3 elixir spell that normally neutralized her. Her area control was absurd, and she could single-handedly shut down pushes across the map. Firecracker wasn't just strong, she was game-breaking. Royal Giant. The evolved Royal Giant was perhaps the most ridiculous
still an
at
issue.
launch. On paper, he seemed like a slightly tankier version of himself, maybe with a few flashy effects, but in practice, absolute chaos. He had 30% more health and a knockback effect so powerful it would literally push units like Mini P.E.K.K.A. back across the arena without taking a swing. With rage support, he could infinitely shove melee troops back while pounding towers.
Freaking ridiculous.
This was a massive offensive advantage, and for many matches, it felt downright unfair.
Whoa, I don't think. Oh
Barbarians.
my
The
gosh.
Barbarians were the least impactful of the original 4.
Well, yeah, they're
They got
barbarians.
a temporary rage boost on spawn, increasing their attack speed briefly. On paper, that sounded terrifying, but in practice, they never felt as strong as Firecracker or Royal Giant.
Agreed.
And compared to Skeletons, their snowballing value wasn't there. And since you could only run 1 evolution per deck, evolved Barbarians were often overlooked in favor of the other, far more oppressive option. evolutions. The bottom line, while skeletons and barbarians were interesting and had their moments, Firecracker and Royal Giant were absolutely broken at launch. They created an environment where spending money to
Yo, I get lost in his videos, man. They're so good.
access evolutions wasn't just advantageous, it was almost mandatory. Players without them were at a massive disadvantage, and matches were increasingly decided by who had the stronger evolution rather than skill. Level 15 and evolutions
Stupid freaking Firecracker. Did you guys see that? That type of stuff still happens, man. Just retargeting and
raise
just
the power
dominating.
ceiling. They amplified the divide between paying and free players, introduced mechanics that were immediately overpowered, and changed the meta in ways that made the early game feel irrelevant. It was a controversial period, and for many, it was one of the most frustrating moments in Clash Royale history. And it's not like it was just these 4 evolutions. Every month, a new evolution dropped, and each one was incredibly strong. And guess what? The only way to acquire them was through Pass Royale. By this point, even long-term players had uninstalled the game, fed up with the absolute greed on display. Throughout the rest of 2023 and 2024, this sentiment didn't change. Players were frustrated, and the game's reputation was suffering. The game was clearly on a decline.
I remember that B-Red video.
Tried to breathe life back into it, but the damage had been done. Clash Royale was slowly but surely dying. But then a miracle happened. A streamer named Jinxie picked up the game after years of not playing. And something clicked for him.
Literally a
He
miracle.
had a lot of fun, and honestly, I don't blame him. The concept of evolutions is genuinely awesome, and the core gameplay of Clash Royale is near perfect for a mobile game. So of course, it was still possible to enjoy the game, especially if you hadn't been around for the worst updates. Jinxie didn't just enjoy it quietly though. He showed off how fun Clash Royale could be to both new players and those who had quit years ago. Collaborations with Ken, Riley, and streaming the game every day helped bring the community back. It's no coincidence that interest in the game hit its highest level nearly 10 years after release. Jinxie undoubtedly played a huge role in reviving it.
95% of that success
kept
is from
dropping
him.
new evolutions as usual, and we saw some exciting reworks like Goblin Hut, Furnace, and even the Three Musketeers got updates, but the meta remained toxic, and very little was done to fix the underlying issues. At least the game was playable and fun. The Spirit Empress was unique, merged tactics, introduced a whole new way to play, and the game still had moments of excitement. But just when things seemed stable, a new shakeup arrived. Elite wildcards were removed. Players immediately started speculating, what could this mean? About a week later, it became clear. Level 16 was announced, and so were Heroes. The reaction was devastating. When Heroes went live, it became painfully obvious that they were super overpowered and heavily pay to win, with abilities locked behind yet another paywall. Sure, the elite wildcard system was gone, but
dude, this video makes me so sad.
that meant nothing when the cost of competing had just skyrocketed. The divide between paying and free players had once again widened, and the frustration that had built up over the years only intensified. And the numbers reflect everything. Despite Heroes and Level 16 being introduced to make money, the difference between October and December is already huge in revenue.
I haven't seen
dropping
it
from
yet.
74 million USD in revenue down to 58 million in December. And even looking at Google Trends, we can see that it dropped from 100% interest to a sad 42.
Yo, they released all of that stuff for the intention of making money, and it did the opposite.
And Clash Royale's golden goose, Jinxie, said he won't be coming back until they fix their game. While this is a dark period for the Clash Royale community, deep down, somewhere inside of me, I feel like they can do something to save it to some degree. I don't know, man, this might be cope, but I love this game so much. It's let me build this beautiful community here on YouTube, and I would love to keep it growing with you guys. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, I have a feeling that this one might be just for you.
All right, y'all go watch that lore one. Hey, go check out Arcto. Oh my gosh, dude. It's such a daunting video, man. What are they gonna do, dude? Like, the hard thing about this is that I feel like you can't undo Heroes. Like, they're in the game now. People spent money on it. You can't take them back. disappointing. Hey, thank you guys for watching. Let me know how y'all feel about this down below. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.